It's all those little things that you do within your video that make the final thing really stand out. And one of the tools that we use to do that is After Effects. It's massively complicated, or it can be. An initial look at it when you open it is just mind-boggling what you can do with it. And that's why this series of tutorials in my After Effects playlist are going to take you through, as I said previously, doing some of the simple stuff, and then we'll edge on into a little bit of stuff that's a little bit more complicated, to high-end stuff where you really are using After Effects to its fullest degree. So in this tutorial, what we're going to do is, hang on, I'll tell you what, before we do that, let's go make a quick coffee. That's better. I do like a nice coffee when I'm doing a tutorial. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, so, yes, After Effects. So today what we're going to do is we're going to animate text really simply, just a simple animation on text to do some sort of title or an intro or anything you want to do with it, you can do it with it. It's not necessarily, I'm going to use this as just an intro title, but you can use this effect any way you like on any single thing you like to do with text. It's just very, very simple, very, very easy. Let's just have a look now and see what we're going to animate, and then we'll get into it. So as you can see, it's not a particularly onerous thing. We're not going to do masses of things. It's just making some text appear on the screen in a way that sort of looks vaguely cinematic. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so now we're in After Effects. What we're going to do is, the first thing is to get something down onto our comp. So we're going to click on the text tool. We're going to type something in there. So this one is going to be my video title production. I'm going to make sure that that is centered, so I'm going to go to the align tool and I'm going to click align center on both of those, like so. I'm then going to go to the paragraph tool, and I'm going to make sure that the text is centered and the character, and I'm going to just reduce the kerning for that in particular. And I'm going to make the text a little bit bigger. Okay, so now that we're all set and we've got everything we need on that, we're all quite happy and hunky-dory there. The next thing to do is to click into our title, like so, and then click animation up at the top, go to animate text, and then go to opacity. And that brings in an animator for us. We can go to range selector and we can go to advanced, and then we can see from here it's selected as to characters. You can select characters excluding spaces, words or lines, and that basically will animate the text based on a particular item. We're going to do characters because we want each individual character to be affected, which is cool. What we're going to do is move our timeline back to the beginning, so we're right back at the very beginning of our animation, and we're going to go to the opacity and we're just going to reduce the opacity down. And the reason we've done that is because we've got an offset here, and that is what we're going to be working with. So we're going to be offsetting, as you can see, the text. If I move the offset up to 100%, you can see that it produces the text in one letter at a time. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our opacity, our offset to 0 and our opacity to 0. We're going to go back to the beginning, click the stop watching the offset, move along about 5 seconds or so, and then we're going to click in it to the offset, type in 100 and bring our text back in. Now if I play that through for you, you'll see what I mean. It basically writes the text on one letter at a time, pretty much like a typewriter would do. And that is the basis of our animation. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to move this text a little bit in a bit more of a cinematic way. So the way to do that would be to close these down a little bit. So we've just got the animator one there. Click off everything, click onto our title text, click to animation again, go to animate text, and go to tracking. And that's brought up another animator. So we've got animator 1 and we've got animator 2. So the next thing that we can do for that, for tracking, is we can just make sure that our playhead is back to the beginning. So scrub right back to the beginning if you need to, so there's nothing showing. Click on our tracking amount, drag our playhead across the right to the very end of our animation, so past where it's all finished, and then put in a value that you like, whichever that could be. For me, it's going to be around 5, I would have thought. I don't want it to be too big, I don't want it to be too small, I don't want too much movement. And effectively what happens when I play this now is you'll see that it will start to move towards the camera. There isn't a camera actually set inside this at the moment, but this text is getting larger and it's tracking it forward. Just ever so slightly, it's just very, very slight. It's very, very, very subtle. It's just basically to give it that little bit of motion. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a little bit of a blur to this, because the text is coming in and it's coming in quite nicely, but it is quite blocky, and we want to just make sure we just round or just feather those edges a little bit. So how we do that is we don't want it to affect this animation, because animator 2 is the tracking, and we don't want to mess with that. What we want to do is we want to make sure that that stays as it is. So we'll close this animator down, and we've got animator 1 and animator 2. We'll click on animator 1, and then we go across to where it says add. We click add, click properties, and then click blur. And that brings in a new blur animation for this particular animator, and it only affects the writing on. It doesn't affect the movement of the text or what's being said. So in that respect, what I can do is click in there, and I can just type in, say, 50, and that gives us a 50 blur. You can see that the boxes around the edges here have enlarged a little bit. You can see where the text is, but you can see there's a little bit of a box edge around it. And now when I write on, they come in with a little bit of a blur inside, and that allows it to look a little bit more like it is, a little bit more like it's fading in rather than it's just popping onto the screen. And that is basically everything there is to do with this particular title effect. It's pretty easy to do, it's just knowing which individual settings to change and how to change them. Of course, you can change each individual setting to how you like it. If, for instance, you wanted to put this into a Premiere Pro timeline, you can do that as well. The way to do that would be to, let's just close that down a little bit for a second. So you go up to Window, you'll go to Essential Graphics, and then you go to use Main Comp. You've got a couple there, you want to use Main Comp. Click on Solo Supported Projects, Properties, grab your source text, and then drag that in, and that gives you an option there, and then you can export that out as a motion graphics template, and that will allow you then inside Premiere to change what it says. It will just import that particular project, this particular project, into Premiere Pro and let you use it as a template for other projects and other titling sequences. It'll apply all those effects to it, it'll apply all those timings to it, etc, etc. You can just change the name of what it says and just keep using it over and over again, rather than creating an individual one for each individual title within After Effects and then exporting it out and then trying to mask it through and all the rest of it and overlay it and what have you. You can do it straight out as a template. Okay, as you can see, super easy to do, super simple. It's not particularly masses of things to do within After Effects, but it does give you a rounded view of sort of how you would do things when you were animating with the layers that you use. It's a little bit like Photoshop, but for video and special effects. However, it can be massively complicated, and sometimes it's worthwhile actually taking notes as to where you have got things. The trick for me would be, if I was to give one person or anybody some advice, or one piece of advice, would be label and name the things that you're doing so that you know what they are and where they are. Because it can become there's things inside layers, inside layers, inside layers. So, and that's the complicated thing for it for me. So if the one piece of advice I could give you would be, when you start, organization is 100% where you want to be. Organize it, and that will make your job on After Effects that little bit easier. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Hope you thought it was useful and interesting, and you get something out of it. You can use it. If you are wanting the file for this, shoot me a message and I can send you the file across, and then you can tinker with it to your heart's content. But for me, I would follow the tutorial, do it as you like, save it out as a template, and then you're good to go forever. Okay guys, see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Please do like and subscribe below and do all that good stuff, notification bells, etc, etc. Send me a message if you want to contact me. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, etc, for more updates about when videos are coming out, etc, etc. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.